I'm joined now by Hilary Shelton. He's with the NAACP, the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. He's the Washington Bureau Director and Senior Vice President for Advocacy. It just seems like a drumbeat. Baton Rouge yesterday, today, what we're seeing in St. Paul. What do you make of it?
Listen, it's not just this year. We've seen this pretty much every year. We can go back and look at the Michael Brown case, the Tamir Rice case, and so many others. Those cases in which law enforcement has a tendency in these cases, and it's just a few law enforcement officials, they respond very quickly and with a prejudice.
This is a domestic issue. The President of the United States traveling in Warsaw took time out just last hour to make an address to the United States, the people of this country, about what's going on. Did he hit all the right notes?
I think he did. I think he left it open enough to allow the investigation to take its course. The FBI is going to be involved, and whatnot is involved already. As a matter of fact, the Assistant Attorney General for Civil Rights has already been deployed to Baton Rouge, and will be going on to Minnesota as they've asked for the Justice Department to get involved too. I think he's saying the right things. We need a thorough investigation to find out what's happened. And we also need a very thorough approach in which we can actually begin truly solving this problem.
Hilary, we have a couple of tools at our disposal that we didn't have years ago. 2004, Facebook came about. You were kind enough to bring in your phone. I just grabbed it from you.
Yes, sir.
It came later that you actually had video capability on the phones. Are these game changers? Because it's remarkable what we've seen in the last 2 days.
Without question. If you go back and look at what's happened over the years, the NAACP has always gotten notification that there have been problems with how police have responded to African Americans in our communities. It goes back from the very beginning of our involvement in this country altogether. But it wasn't until the Rodney King case, in which captured on video, at that time it wasn't a telephone, it was one of those 8mm video recorders, that they captured those police officers trying to beat Rodney King to death. But because there was a long time between that and, of course, us all having video cameras now in our back pockets with our cell phones, that people are seeing more and more, this just isn't that extraordinary. It happens all too often. So now we know that this is systemic, and we have to do something about it.
What about body cameras? We heard so much about this last year. You got to have the body cameras on these police officers. They're saying in the Baton Rouge case, well, they had them on, they came off.
Well, see, that's a problem. You know, and very well, we believe that body cameras, dash cams, and gun cams are all very, very helpful tools to monitor what's going on. If a police officer is doing his duty and carrying out his responsibilities in a way that's most helpful, it'll show that. If they're doing things like we're seeing here, our case in Cincinnati last year, in which a man was driving across the University of Cincinnati's campus, pulled over by a police officer. The police officer gets frustrated because the man can't find his photo ID, that is his driver's license, or his car registration, and begins shooting him in the car. The police officer forgot he had his body camera on. He went back and did his report and said that the man tried to pull me into the car as he sped away, and it's only because I could reach my gun and shoot him while he was driving that I was able to save my own life. Of course, the body camera showed that the man hadn't done anything, and the only reason the car coasted across the street, as captured on that police officer's body cam, was because after he killed him, his foot came off of the brake.
Back in 1908, I'm going to tell you about your history that you know so well. In response to lynchings and race riots, the NAACP was born. And I bring that up because a famous athlete here in the United States, quarterback for the San Francisco 49ers, Colin Kaepernick, went on his Instagram account and said, this is what lynchings look like in 2016. You've been with the NAACP a long time. Do you feel like you're making headway, or you're just banging your head on the wall? And what needs to be done?
Well, I feel like we're making progress. Progress is the first steps in being able to solve a social problem like this is to shine that bright spotlight on it. For Americans to talk about it in our democratic system, not only look at the problem, but begin crafting solutions. I think we have some great recommendations for solutions that need to move forward. The U.S. Congress, both House and Senate, need to hold hearings. They need to look at Congressman John Conyers and Congressman Carton from Maryland's bills that actually look at the issues of racial profiling and police use of force. The biggest problem we have right now is there's no clear policy on the acceptable use of force. So what ends up happening is it's all with the police officer's interpretation. If a police officer says, even if it's irrational, that I felt threatened by that African-American man, as the case was in Amadou Diallo, an African immigrant, came out of his apartment, stepped into the vestibule of his apartment. This was about 15 years ago. 2 police officers opened fire, shooting at him over 50 times and hitting him 22. And when they asked the police officers what happened, they said, it spooked us. But the only thing the man had in his hands, in one hand, he had his cell phone. In the other hand, he had his car keys that he was going to utilize to go get something to eat. We know there's sometimes a different interpretation. We need very clear policies that don't vary from police department to police department or state to state. Policies to make it clear what a police officer can and shouldn't do, and very well policies that will utilize to hold those police officers accountable for their duties or for what they do after these events occur.
All right, Hilary, thanks so much for coming in.
Oh, it's my
Appreciate it.
pleasure. Thanks for having me.